We're now on page 32 of your working file, Combine and Break Apart. This is one of those lessons that, well, you may need to come back to it over time. A lot of people get confused about the subject of combine. Now, combining an object is just nothing like grouping an object, and that's the thing that needs to be set up front. We have two objects here, the orangey coloured ellipse or circle and the white circle in front. These two, as you can see up here, are grouped together. I can ungroup them, and I have two objects. However, if I take these two objects and I combine them, once you have two objects selected, as with group, you can right click and choose combine, or Control L, or straight up here on the property bar, you can combine. See there? I've got the option to group, but also to combine. Now when I combine, what happens is they join together and become one object, and I can actually see through. See the difference? Really big difference between combine and group, isn't there? Control Z, I'll undo that. Let me delete this one here. The important thing to understand about combining objects together, now plus on my keyboard, I'll just create a duplicate and pop it there. Shift page up. The important thing is that in the same way as we learnt with aligning objects, you know, the object on the lowest layer becomes the reference. Well, it's the same thing with combining. Either the object on the lowest layer, or sorry, the lowest of the stacking order, or the last object you select becomes the reference. For example, if I select the orange first, finger on shift, and then the white circle, and I combine, what will happen? You'll notice I end up with a white filled circle or ellipse or hollow, whatever you want to call that, and it has a red outline. So basically the resulting combined object, I'll say that again, the resulting combined object adopted the properties of the object on the lowest layer, for example like that one there, or the last selected object. In this case, the last selected object was the white circle with the red outline. So my end result is white with a red outline, and the outline thickness is also the same. That's quite powerful, isn't it? Let's take that a little further so you can see it over here. If I select all of these objects, that orange one is on the bottom layer. Let's combine together. Well, they've all turned orange. They all have a thin black outline, and where they crossed over, the crossover point is see-through. Can you see that? It's actually see-through. So wherever objects cross over and you combine them, you'll be able to see through them. So let's quickly undo that. What I'm going to do now is take this object here. Now objects don't have to touch to be combined. And I'm going to select all of those objects. In fact, let's not do it that way. Finger on shift, and I'll select this as the last object. So when I combine, I expect they will all turn purple with a thicker blue outline. So combine, and there you go. Crossover point is see-through. It's really quite simple once you start to understand these principles. Let me delete that, and I'm going to increase the size of this. Now this is the bowling ball we used on the previous page, but there was a certain part of that I didn't actually show you. To create the correct effect in this highlighted area, we actually needed to combine the objects. Let me ungroup that. Now, what I've got here is not a group of objects as we did previously, but rather a combined number of objects. And that's how I'm getting that unique effect. Notice how the white glow is a bit brighter there and it pales out on the others. That's because an effect has been applied to the combined object. If I break them apart, now yes, whenever you combine a number of objects together and you break them apart, watch this one here. If I select that and I come up here to break apart, Control K or right click and choose break apart, which will be up there, I end up with two resulting objects that are the same size originally, but they will have the properties of whatever the combined object had, which of course was white with a red outline. Let me undo that. Watch this. If I break apart this combined lot of objects, you'll notice that that effect now is applied individually to each object. And of course that doesn't look right at all. It was the combining of those objects, making them one object, so I could apply the effect across the one object that made it work so well. So let's go back and recombine them, and that does look so much better, doesn't it? Now don't worry if you don't completely understand that. You can always come back and refer back to this in time. I'll pop that back there like that. Now the last thing I quickly want to show you is if I select these two objects here and just bring them over here. Just to take the principle further, again, if we combine these two together, they'll end up turning the orange color, Control Z, because that was on the lowest layer. Or alternately, if I select that object and then the number and then the red circle and combine, as you can see, we end up with the resulting being red with the black outline. But also, where the characters are, let's go shift page up, bring to the top. Where the characters are, you can see they're actually see-through. Can you see that? In fact, let's look at that a little deeper. When I break this apart, always remember that everything will break apart in the resulting color, okay, that it was as a combined object. But let me just delete that, pop that on there. Always remember, when you're looking for that see-through effect, shift page up so we can see that. I'll just increase the size, finger on shift, stretch out a little bit, just to really highlight this to you. When you're after that effect of see-through, okay, place one object on top of the other and combine the two, and you'll always end up with a see-through object, as you can see. Okay, so combine makes one object of many objects. Now in time you'll also see tremendous other values in doing this type of thing, particularly when it comes to node editing. Okay, we'll talk more about that as we go. So hey, I'd like for you to go ahead, play with all of the objects and really just reproduce what I've done, and that will help you to at least sink a little bit of this process in. But as we get into future design elements, it'll become very, very obvious why we're combining objects.